I survived human trafficking. That means I'm not entitled to a family. I've known people in our groups whose children have been stolen and they've committed suicide. And these are not African descent. These are white working class people. It's evil, it's heinous. The whole thing does not represent great British values.
Hello and welcome to the Resistance podcast. Today we have on Sam, who's previously been a guest of UK Column. Sam, do you want to introduce yourself and the campaign that you're finding involved?
My name is Sam Nass. That's how I go by online. I abbreviate my name because my name is a mouthful. I'm campaigning for the return of my children who were stolen by Salford City Council, Cheshire Western Cheshire Council, and Kafkas. The family court in the UK enabled the stealing of my children. And that's the campaign I'm on right now. But it's not just my campaign. A lot needs to change in the family courts.
May I ask, where does your story start? Where do you think it's relevant for your story to start?
Oh my goodness, I don't even know where to start from, Wills. I just want to say thank you to your viewers and to your listeners. And I want to send... Before I start this podcast, I want to send my sincere condolences to the families and to the communities and to the entire world for the children who were stabbed in Southport, innocent children. Our prayers are with them and we love them and send them so much love. Now, sorry. I'll start on my story now. My story begins, let me indulge you a little bit in my growing up. I was born in sub-Saharan Africa. In my formative years, I was educated by British missionaries with great British values. So for me, in my head, when I relocated to Great Britain, all I could remember was those lovely missionaries, the love they showed us, the support they gave us when we had nothing. That is all I could recall. In my secondary school, of course, my parents were Muslims. My father was a Muslim, but my mother is a Catholic. My father was a liberal Muslim. So in that way, in my secondary school, I was educated in a Muslim school. I learned the Quran, I learned tafsir, and I learned hadith. And as years went on, my father became unwell. And obviously, our mother was a housewife. So I want to believe I was educated to a level of sanity, a level of discerning, and a level of love. Years went by, I relocated to Great Britain as a survivor of human trafficking.
How did the human trafficking happen, if I may ask?
Well, I ran away from my own home country after arranged marriages. I had one baby, my little angel.
Did you have a choice about this arranged marriage?
In most cases, you don't. In most cases, you really don't have a choice. And I found myself landing into the rackets of trafficking.
What was the situation that led you into the trafficking? So you're in this arranged marriage, and may I ask what was happening within the marriage?
I think within me there is a very strong spirit that doesn't settle for, lunacy. Yeah. I'm sorry, I don't mean no disrespect, but within your soul, within any human, you know what is right and what is wrong. And for me, that setting was wrong for me. So I decided for the first time in my entire life, I will leave my country. I will leave my country to a place of unknown. Yeah. I ran away, went into Singapore.
And your child, you left them with...
with my mother.
Yeah, with your mother.
Yes, I left my baby girl with my mother, a Catholic mother.
Yeah, so she was nice and safe and being looked after,
yes.
And you were just looking for opportunities elsewhere yourself.
Yes. I was looking for safety before opportunities, really, because I didn't want to have my daughter at the age of 18, 19, go through the same. I didn't want to see my young sisters go through the same.
And what is it like when girls are put into these arranged marriages in East Africa? What are the expectations and how are they treated by their husbands and the community?
I won't speak for everybody because I haven't lived their lives. But anything that is not consensual, one would say it's not right. It's not right. It's not acceptable. Imagine me waking up tomorrow and telling you, now, Wills, I think next week you're going to get married to this woman here. You'll be sad and appalled and say, absolutely no way. So I think the fact that there is no consent in the process, it takes away the beauty, even if the partner was good or anyone was good. So that is the reason. Then I fell into the whole trafficking rackets from Singapore to Malaysia to Bahamas to Hong Kong and then to the United Kingdom.
How did they rope you in?
You run out of money. You can't go back home.
Because what would happen if you came back home?
Oh, you don't live an arranged marriage. It was, these are not, the Islam is not the same. The way people practice Islam in some countries is not the same in East Africa. That's why governments are very firm on what things are supposed to be acceptable and what things are not supposed to be acceptable.
So under Islam, or the way Islam's practiced in East Africa,
Yeah.
what sort of things would happen? Would it be beatings? Would it be anything else?
I want to imagine that it would be the worst for me for my entire life and if I went back.
So it could be beatings, it could be possibly death?
Yes. Because everyone's way of interpreting the Quran, the Hadith, and Tafsir is different. Some are very tolerant and loving and kind, and some have taken it to an extreme. So I think that is why. For me personally, I converted to Christianity when I landed in the UK, where I had the choice, where I was allowed to be myself and to enjoy my life. But I've come to a position where I have to speak out, because if I don't speak out, I've been gagged for 7 years. I've been silenced. I've been distracted by lawyers, some lawyers. I've been misrepresented. Because in my brain, I'm still thinking of the British missionaries who came into our schools when we were young. They were men of integrity. They were civil. They were dignified people. So when you come to Great Britain, you expect that professionals are going to be on the same level of standard. You expect them to be not just kind, but thoughtful. You expect them to know better. In a million years, if someone told me what my eyes have witnessed in family courts, I wouldn't believe them. I would not believe them. I would say in the UK, in Great Britain, those things don't happen. But I saw it all in Manchester.
Before we get to Manchester, they hooked you into the sex trafficking because you ran out of money.
Yes.
How is it that they lure you in? They don't just come up to you and say, "Oh, do you want to be sex trafficked?"
No.
There's a way that they lure you in. So how does this work, and what were the things that you saw?
Well, you've run out of money, so you're in Singapore. The rules for immigration are very stringent. If your visa runs out, you're in for a good treat. And so my visa ran out. It's a 1-month visa. It's a visitor's visa. You either have to renew it or you have to find somewhere to go or to work. And I couldn't afford it. So then I find these people and tell me, we will find you work. We'll find you somewhere to work and we'll find you somewhere safe. That's why on my Twitter page, I keep saying, I survived the dark rooms. I can survive anything. Because if you can survive human trafficking without any hate in your soul, without being a victim in my head, I surely can survive anything. And I can thrive.
What did they do to some of the girls there? What were the conditions like for the girls?
You're sodomized. You're raped several times. Some girls didn't survive. Many things happened.
I'm sorry to pry.
Sorry.
It's okay. It's okay. So you ended up here because you were sent to take something over to the Bahamas.
Yeah, so I was sent to Nassau. I went all the way through the gates of Great Britain, London Heathrow, with my bag, heavily pregnant. My intentions were not to come to the UK. I was in the trafficking rackets. I was being used everywhere. I was comfortable. That's all I was used to, because I thought at the time that was my fate. But you get to a time where you have to accept what has happened to you. So at some point, I almost agreed. But God in heaven saved me from the evil. So I go down to Nassau, to the Bahamas. Flight lands, and these immigration officers say, "Miss, you have to step at the side." And I said, "Why?" But I was pregnant. I was bleeding. My whole situation was interesting with my bag, and they said, "You have to go back to London Heathrow, because that is what the international law requires. From your last stop is where you're returned. You're not returned."
The last ports.
The last ports. So I was returned to London Heathrow. The British Home Office, immigration officers who were at London Heathrow, they said, "We've been following these people who were, I think they were doing a serious investigation to come down on human trafficking." And they said, "We believe you've been trafficked." And they helped me. They took me in, and they asked me about my journey and what I had in the bag. They took the bag.
And you helped explain what was going on. And
yes, and they actually helped me a lot. I was heavily traumatized. They fed us. They treated us like humans. They were kind. The Home Office was. They didn't treat us with any disregard or disrespect, and they found us a safe place to stay, a safe house. I can't give you
obviously, don't give me the address.
The details, but I wasn't the only one. There were several women from all walks of life, men as well, young men who had been through the whole process. I was moved on. The Home Office moved us from place to place until our paperwork came through. At the time, I've always had a desire to learn, to educate myself.
And you didn't have those opportunities before?
I didn't have the opportunities of where I could go in a class, and I don't have to worry that the electricity is going to be cut off today, so I have to hand in my coursework a night before. I didn't have to worry about so many things. So in the process of recovering, I've always had a desire to learn. So I thought I may as well volunteer for the Citizens Advice Bureau, because at the time the Home Office gave us cards that said, even though you're in the United Kingdom, you're forbidden. The word was so strongly written on that card, forbidden from employment. So I went, volunteered for Citizens Advice Bureau. Remember, I just come out of trafficking. The brain is still heavily hypervigilant. Everything that comes near me, I think, oh my God, is part of the racket. Oh my God, what does he want? All that. And the body is also reacting in its own way. I've forgotten that when I came at the airport, I was also taken to I think the clinic is called Mary Stopes.
Mary Stopes?
For the abortion. Yes, and the abortion was done consented. Yes, it was done because of what had happened. I could not remember who had done what. Now, the evil one wants you to feel that you should feel guilty and ashamed of what happened to you. I stand tall and strong because I don't fear no evil since I was a young girl. These cowards have stolen my children. They saw it fit at our deepest despair. Imagine preying on someone who has just come out of human trafficking and you find it fit to re-traumatize them again by stealing their children who've just landed into the United Kingdom.
So you were in the United Kingdom, and your daughter was still with your mother, right?
Yes.
So she was with her nan.
Yes.
She was all okay.
She's called Angel.
Yeah, so Angel was completely fine, and she'd never been through any trouble.
No, I gave myself time to heal. I didn't want to rush it.
Yeah.
So I had a wonderful therapist. At the time, her name was Dr. Fegan. She was incredible. She supported me through the whole process of trauma and everything. She held my hand. This woman was so dignified. She was from, I think, Lancashire. She held my hand. She stood with me. She helped me readjust from the whole horror. How can I not be? I'm still in shock what has happened because it does not reflect the great British values.
So you landed here, you had help, and then you started volunteering with the Citizens Advice Bureau.
Yes.
How was that, helping people out and volunteering there?
I was still so African. So for me, coming to the United Kingdom and hearing a son reply back to his dad with swearing words and profanities, it was a little bit interesting for me. So I had to hold myself back a little bit and think, oh my God, we're in Great Britain, so Sam, take a chill pill and relax. And I had to look down. So it was a little bit of a cultural shock for me for the first time to see children swearing at their parents.
But did you enjoy working alongside the people and helping people out?
I learned quite a lot. Quite a lot because most of them were pensioners who had worked as lawyers, senior officials. They were very kind. They were absolutely kind. All they wanted for us to do is to learn, to remain professional at all times. I remember the manager was Mr. Mark, and he was very tolerant, patient with my whole situation. And yeah, it was a lovely time as a receptionist with my very, very heavy duty African accent.
You must have had a few people who couldn't understand what you were saying.
You bet, because it was Salford and
up north.
up north.
I still can't do the Manchester accent. I went to university in Manchester. I still can't do the accent.
Yeah, it was.
So you'll have to forgive me that I always go Yorkshire when I go north.
Yeah, it was Salford, and they couldn't. They still struggled to understand what I said or what I meant, but I can't give it to them. They were kind.
Well, I think your accent is much better now than it must have been, because I can clearly understand everything you're saying.
It's been years of dealing with trauma, and really, yeah, learning.
So, how long was it until you brought over your daughter to stay with you? How many years? Was it a year or two?
I came here in 2014. My daughter came here in 2017. It was a few years. I went to college in Manchester. I studied law and criminology. I enjoyed that. It was beautiful. The college was really lovely. I wanted to learn more because I enjoyed learning and reading, but the whole situation wasn't very good. I hope one day I will go back and study more.
What were you hoping for? Were you hoping to go into maybe some sort of career as a paralegal and do some of the paperwork or the reception work for a law firm maybe?
I was hoping to one day become a barrister for girls and boys who've been trafficked. to support them, because most people's knowledge about trafficking is very theoretical. It's very, I read an article somewhere or I read a blog somewhere. But living the horror it comes with different levels. So I wanted to become a barrister then, but I think it's for the smart ones. That career is for very smart people, and I don't think I'm one of those.
Well, you say that, but I believe Keir Starmer got something like a B in two C's or two B's in a C. And he not only became head of the CPS, but he also managed to become Prime Minister. But then again, I guess that's probably only if you sell your soul.
I didn't say a word.
We'll get to Keir Starmer later.
Yes.
What happened when you brought over your daughter?
My daughter came here in 2017, in February, by the help of IOM, International Organization of Migrants. They escorted her here, and the Red Cross, they have a scheme where they fund for legal migrants who wish to have a family reunion with their immediate family members. And I met the criteria. I was still studying as a student at college. I was volunteering, and I was still healing from trauma then. So they supported me.
And the whole time, just to emphasise, your daughter had been completely fine and safe because she'd been with your mother.
Yes.
So that just because I know obviously they'll throw different things at you, but the thing that you can always say is, my daughter's always been safe because she's always been with my mother.
Oh yes, they know it. They know it. My daughter was with our mum. She was very safe. We're a traditionalist family. We come from a long line of veterans. We are Christians. I'm a Christian. My mother is Catholic. Our father was a liberal Muslim. We are farmers back home. We had our farms for so many years until the modernization of the world. I love to say that we are also monarchists because we are part of the Commonwealth for so many years. So yes, she was safe. We have a home. We have lands. I think people have a misconception of why people leave their own countries.
What was the next thing that happened? How long did you actually spend with your daughter?
My daughter comes here on February 2017. And Lord and behold, in May 2017, my daughter was snatched and stolen by Salford City Council for a profit.
What grounds did they give for this alleged kidnap?
I was the perfect template to steal a child from. I survived human trafficking. That means I'm not entitled to a life, really, according to Salford City Council and Kafka's and the family court in Manchester. I survived human trafficking. That means I'm not entitled to a family. They said at the time my ex-partner was the reason why they were removing my daughter. But that's not true. This is a man who has a family of his own. It's a decent family. They're happy. They grew up happy, healthy family. He's not a monster. Well, we had spats during our relationship.
As most people do.
As most people do. We had disagreements. We get upset. He got upset. I got upset. But he's not the one who could harm or hurt children.
Did he ever commit any sort of violent crime or anything?
No, absolutely not. He's never been arrested. He's never been prosecuted.
Well, he's doing better than me then.
He's a businessman. He was working. He spent thousands and thousands of pounds on this case until they continued mind manipulating him to stop. And I thank God they stopped him, because now we could find all the corruption.
So you had a partner over here. After a few years of being here, you had a partner and you had another child with your new partner.
Yes.
And so they were saying that he, despite not having been convicted for anything,
yes,
and despite the principle of innocent until proven guilty,
it doesn't work in the family court. In the family court, I would love to say it's a star chamber. By the time you go in the family court in public proceedings, in most cases, God help you if you're a legal migrant and you don't know that they're actually going to steal your children. Chances are the decision has been predetermined. It's a shame. It really is a shame. It really is a shame. So yeah, that's what's happened.
They imprisoned me.
Oh my God, I'm
No
so sorry.
legitimate justification.
Oh my
I had
God,
a
I'm
perfectly safe home with my nan.
so. Oh my God.
But the government believes that it knows best and it knows how to take over your private life, take away your children.
Yeah. For me, I won't go that far, Wales, because I lived in sub-Saharan Africa for a long time. I studied a little bit, so I want to believe I'm sane enough to understand how this whole thing works. It's just a handful of cowards who do these things and give the entirety of the government a wrong name. If they were perfect in their decision making, then they wouldn't want people to be gagged, silenced, don't speak about it. Because cabinet ministers don't want things like that.
The thing is, people need to live by principles.
Yes.
And the principle of innocent until proven guilty
Yes.
is the fundamental principle of English law. Unless you can convict someone of abusing a child, unless you can put them in front of a jury,
Yes.
right, put them in court,
Yes.
and a jury can say guilty,
Yeah.
they're innocent. And that is a threshold for everything.
Yes.
If you want to lock someone up, if you want to give them a fine, that is what we've had for basically 1,000 years. There have been corruption throughout the years, but that's always something that we look back on and we think is disgusting.
Yeah.
We think is abhorrent. You know, we've cut off the heads of kings. We've seen Richard III had a spear shoved up his backside, right? Because they went against our principles of English justice and English law. And for that, they were considered illegitimate. They were considered tyrants. The fact that the family courts don't have this principle of innocent until proven guilty, the fact that they've not brought in a jury,
Yes.
to me, as an Englishman, is absolutely disgusting, because my family have fought in 2 world wars for this country.
Yes.
And they fought for these values of
Yes.
freedom, of the right by trial by jury,
Yes.
right? And also jury unanimity, that you need 12 out of 12, because 1967, and no one remembers it, but they debased it.
Yeah.
And they said, oh, you need 3 people. I just think it's abhorrent, because lots of countries are called a democracy because they have a popularity contest and everyone votes.
Yes.
And I don't consider that to be a democracy.
No.
I consider it a true democracy, where you have fundamental rights, and where if the government wants to act against you, you have to be declared guilty by your peers, a jury of your peers. And if you don't have that, then this popularity contest can do anything, right? 51% of people can line the other 49% up against the wall and shoot them in the back of the head. And people call that a democracy. They call that, demos kratos, people power. And I couldn't disagree more. I think people need to start using the word ochlocracy. Okay. Do you know what that means?
No.
In the Greek?
No.
It means rule by the mob. And also,
you don't want to go there.
But I think that's where we are.
You don't want to go there because mob justice has never helped anyone.
Yeah, but I think to describe what we're living in, ochlocracy. And also, I think it suits because it's so, you know what cacophony is?
No.
Crack and hit, and about the sounds of the words, it's a type of alliteration that you can have, right? Or assonance. And ochlocracy sounds as horrible as it bloody well is. I can testify to this. And I know there are so many other people who are going through what you've been going through.
Oh yes, when I was interviewed by UK Column, I had a serious threats at my doorstep. I hadn't done anything. I'm just asking and demanding for my children to be returned, who were stolen when I was helpless. My baby was cut out of my stomach. The only difference between me and so many people is that I will not give up.
So you were pregnant with your partner at the time's child?
Yes, he was older than me.
Yeah.
And they used that as well, that he was too old. Why are you going out with an older man? And I said, those are my choices. We are two consenting adults.
How old were you at the time?
I was in my early 20s.
So you're in your early 20s and he was in...
He was older. He was old. Because that's what the brain was used to. I was married off as a young girl to a very old man. And yes,
But there's no crime in this country in going out with an older man.
as long as he's loving and kind.
Yeah. But they used that. They went, oh, well, he's a couple of decades older than you. I mean,
He carried so much experience and wisdom, and I'm glad. I'm glad we went out and we had a child together.
And
It wasn't all roses at the time because my hormones were shooting up, and I can put on a fight.
I can tell. If going out with someone who's got a bit of an age disparity with you is a crime, then I mean,
In Salford City Council, it is a crime.
Then the next time that Macron comes over, you know,
That's what I told the judge. I learned from Mr. Macron.
Well, the thing is, though, his wife was his teacher when he was at school and he was about 14, 15. That's how dodgy it gets over in France.
It was all consented, I may say.
Yeah, but you are an adult in your 20s, you have a relationship with a man
Who is Irish.
Yeah, an Irishman in his...
Who's white.
Yes. An Irishman in his like 50s or something like that.
Yeah.
And they go, oh, well... I just can't follow the logic. There is no logic to it, is there?
In Salford City Council, there is logic for that because they can prey on the most vulnerable in society. It's not just me. Because when you steal someone's children, lying down helpless on the floor, they've survived human trafficking. Imagine a rape victim gets pregnant and you say, you know what? You got raped, so we may as well take your child because we don't think you'll be good enough to be a parent. It's evil, it's heinous. The whole thing does not represent great British values. And that's not what our parents fought for this land. That's absolutely not what veterans fought for. Absolutely not. We've spent everything we've had. My ex-partner spent what he could. We've spent everything. I'm a taxpayer here. I don't know why they're holding my children. I live in Sakia Stammers Borough now.
One of the funny things is, it's, you know, despite all of this that they've been throwing at your ex-partner, who's got nothing against his name apart from having a few grey hairs.
Yes.
Like, even though you're not together now, you've been working together as a team and you've been fighting this together as a team.
Yeah.
And you're completely united. Like,
no, we separated.
Yeah.
We completely separated because they.
But you're fighting in order to. You're both fighting in order to try and.
No, he's given up.
How much did he spend?
He spent over 80 to 90,000.
He spent 80 to 90,000
Yes.
just to try and save your child.
Yes.
And when
I have all the receipts. Yes.
they took, was it your son?
We instructed barristers, Mr. Rex Holding. We instructed barristers like Miss Kate Baranigan. We instructed barristers like Miss Sam King. And the time when they came to the courts, the social services didn't turn up. Salford City Council didn't turn up. Several times.
And then you still had to pay for those barristers. They didn't compensate you.
Yes.
And they just didn't bother to turn up. So they just
No.
burnt through all of your money.
Yes. That's another tactic they use because they're cowards. They're vile people. Decent people don't do evil things like that. It does not represent what this country is about. That's why I'm saying it's just a handful of cowards who are trying to destroy the country. It's not everybody.
Did they give you the option to send your children back to their grandmother where they knew that they were safe? Or
this is how evil they are. They called my mother over the phone 30 minutes. We recorded their phone call. And they ruled her out. They didn't go to Uganda. They didn't go to East Africa. They didn't go to the country. But they called over the phone and they said, she's not fit to be to look after Angel. A woman who has raised us, this is our mother. She's raised Angel. She's raised us. So many grandchildren up to now. She has so many orphans she looks after. And up to now, no, she's not good enough. Does it make sense? Someone who's profiting from the whole process. And for me, as a survivor of human trafficking, I call it another modern way of trafficking children, enabled by people like Judge Alison Woodward, Judge Sarah Singleton, Dr. Kate Helene, because we recently found there is a serious conflict of interest. Now then, tell me if this is independent or impartial, the whole process. The judge who presided on my case is called Alison Woodward. I removed her honor from her intentionally because she breached and violated